Hey, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, y'all gotta excuse me. I got some allergy situations going on down here in Texas. Yes. So, day two. We are still in Texas, unfortunately. Um, I should have been out of here and damn near in Georgia today. But it's cool. I'm not going to stress or complain about it. But in light of yesterday's videos, if anybody saw them, you understand what I went through yesterday. Um, as far as being overloaded on my load that I picked up. And so this morning, I'm back at the shipper to get my load reworked. That means they need to take all the stuff they just loaded onto my trailer off my trailer and reposition it, or take some of the stuff off and rewrite up the bills for the delivery. If you watched yesterday, just to recap, I was over on my rear axle. I tried to correct the problem. End up getting into a little bit more of a situation than um, should have been. But it's cool. You live and you learn, and I learned a lesson out of yesterday. So that's what brings me here today to talk to y'all. Learning what you can learn that they don't teach you in school. This is very valuable information, you guys, because didn't nobody tell me this when I was in school getting my CDL. And quite frankly, a lot of the trainers don't teach you everything because they can't. This stuff takes time and experience to learn. You only with them for so many hours, so many days, so many weeks, so many whatevers. So they can't teach you everything that you need to learn in order to come out here and be totally 100 out here in these trucks. So today I'm going to try to, from what I've experienced in my journey thus far, try to kind of give y'all a little heads up of what to ask your trainers to show you. Um, that way, when you do, especially if you're a solo driver, that way when you go ahead and get into your own truck by yourself, yeah, you may be fortunate to continue to have a mentor that you can call upon, because a lot of trainers are real cool about that. You can keep their numbers and call them and talk to them at a later time if you need to about any situation. But by chance that you call them at that moment, because I've had this happen too, I needed them at that moment, and unfortunately they might be driving, they might be training, they may be on home time with their phone turned off. You can't always depend on them being available either. So you might find yourself in a situation that you need that information right then and there, and unfortunately you don't have anyone to call upon. You may not always be at a truck stop to call upon another driver, um, to come help you or to give you the knowledge that you need. You may be at a truck stop and call upon a driver, and you get some of these a-hole drivers that's like, I got mine, now you get yours the best way that you can, and they don't want to share the knowledge. Or another scenario. Let's just say you get that a-hole driver that's racist. I hate to say it, but it happens. And they tell you the wrong information just to fuck you. It happens. Especially, I'm sorry to say, being a woman, being an African American woman, it definitely happens because they look at me two different type of ways. You a woman, you shouldn't even be out here. This is their world. I covered that yesterday too. No, it's not. We do it too, and quite frankly, if you ask me, women do it better. Second thing, yes, I am black, but look, we all bleed the same blood. I think mine's turn red when it comes into the air and the atmosphere too. So there you go. But today we're gonna go ahead and talk about some things that you may want to make sure you go over in your training and say, hey, can you show me this? Can you point this out to me? Because even, when you in CDL school, they don't go over everything. Like moving tandems. We didn't move tandems at all in CRSC. And I barely moved them with my lead. I don't know what it was. The loads that we had wasn't heavy enough to have to move our tandems. So I didn't get a chance to see moving tandems until I got on my own truck. Literally. Because even when I went out with a co-driver while I was at CRST, we didn't move tandems. Our loads wasn't heavy enough for us to have to move tandems. Um, but when I got became a solo driver, is when I finally got my first load that I needed to move my tandems. And I ended up calling my lead driver, my trainer, and saying, "Hey, how do you do this from a cell phone?" And he walked me through it as best as he could. But I had to also learn experience, because as you're gonna find this also in this industry, that the way one person does it may not be the way that another person does it, or it may not even be the way that you come to do it. You may find your own way to do something. Like, okay, in the back of my book, right? And I keep this book basically to write down all of my pickups and delivery times, and trip numbers and pickup numbers and stuff like that. That way, when I get off the truck, if my phone go dead or something happens, I have my information right here. And it also helps me to keep a log of the things that I have done over the course of time. But at the back of this book, I don't know if you guys see it, it's not a whole lot. But when I come across something that stumps my brain, or something I know I'm going to need again in the future and that I need to remember, I will write it down in the back of this book as a note, like moving tandems. My trainer told me how to do it the way that, he does it. A lot of people say move the weight away from here and move the weight this way. To me, registered in my brain, I was like, oh, okay, you're speaking French to me now. I'm like, what do you actually mean? Move it away from the kingpin this way, move it towards the kingpin that way. It didn't register for me. It wasn't until I actually took my load across a scale and I tried to use the way he told me to do it, and I ended up doing it backwards. So when I went to reweigh up my load after moving my tandems, the attendant was real cool. He was like, yeah, so instead of you taking that weight off of where you had the weight at, you actually put more weight on. Yeah, you're gonna need to go back around, redo it again, and I got you. I won't even charge you for it. Because he can, a lot of people, they're good about understanding that you're new out here, that this is new for you and it's learning for you. So he didn't charge me to reweigh up I had to reweigh a third time. He didn't charge me the third time. And it was my learning experience. So what I did was, that taught me, okay, well, since I moved in this direction and it put the weight back on where I was trying to take the weight off. So that means if I move it in the opposite direction, it takes the weight off of where I'm trying to get the weight off of. And that's the note that I put down. So let that be one. Moving your tandems. All depends on what type of system you have, whether you have the lever that you pull or whether you have the button that you pull. Depends on how you are going to start this journey. For the most part, if your trailer brakes are engaged and you have air flowing through it, then you're going to want to pop that brake and you're going to want to go back there and pull the lever or pull the button, and that will release your tandem pins. Okay. So once the tandem pins are released, note this: if the pins are still sticking out after you've heard them release, then that means you need to rock your trailer. Get back in, keep your trailer air supply pulled out, and push your tractor brakes in, and then literally like ease, put it in drive a little bit, ease, rock it, and if it don't release and it feels like it's doing a tug test at that point, then you put it in reverse and you go backwards. Easy does it. Don't do like I do sometimes and let that lead foot be your guide. But rock it back and then you'll feel it move. Once you feel it move, then you know that your pins have released themselves and they went in. That's what it means when the pins release. They go in. So then you can go ahead and move your tandems. Okay, so this is a note for you guys. When the weight is on the back, and let me see here. I don't have. Okay, here's a ticket where the weight is on the back, and I'm gonna release this. Um, let's move this around a little bit. Okay, so this is what I mean, guys. When my weight is on the back of my trailer axle, then I am going to want to move. Now, for a lot of the trucks, well, the trailers, they usually have an arrow that marks, and people use that to let them know when they're at their 41 mark. The 41 mark of your trailer is to the center, supposed to be to the very center of that rear axle, which is your very last tire on your trailer. That is where that 41 mark, when you put that arrow directly in the middle of that last tire, that is your 41 mark, supposed to be. Now, good rule of thumb that I was taught is to get a measuring tape, because let's just say somebody, oops, did not measure, but they thought they got it and they eyeballed it and they put that arrow there and it's off by a foot. Not likely to always happen, because usually it's the company that puts it there, hopefully, and they have measured to the correct distance. But by chance, I do keep a measuring tape on my truck, so I can measure my distance, because you will also learn when you're moving your tandems that you need to be no more than 41 feet from the kingpin to the rear axle. And when you have to move your trailer to and from, that distance will also move. So you may have to measure. I hope that's making a little bit of sense. When you actually have to do it, it may make a little bit more sense for you. I don't want to get too deep and get you guys confused. But so back on track. So the trailer axle right here is 34,400. So that means technically I am still 400 pounds overweight on my trailer axle. That is still not good. No, do not think, oh, well, I reached the 34 mark. Oh, it's just 400 over. I can roll down the road and DLT will not fuck with me. No, they gonna get you. Believe that. When you go into that weigh house, they gonna get you. So make sure that you do not become a victim and have to pay those fines, because that is um that's your responsibility. That is not the company's responsibility. And if you are found over on any one of your axles, you will be the one fined. Yes, your company will also, I think, have a fine of their own, or some type of repercussions. But at the end of the day, when it comes to paying off that ticket, you will be the one paying off that ticket. So back to the thing. So by me being over at 400 pounds, that means that I need to take that arrow and move forward. I need to put my vehicle in drive and move forward. Okay. Now, if my weight had been on my drive axle, if this had been 34,400 instead, and this had been 33,560, then that means I would need to put it in reverse and move backwards. Okay. So, yeah, I think I'm definitely saying that right, because my notes say when weight is on the back, move arrow forward. When the weight is on the front, move the arrow backwards. So let's just keep it simple. That's how I remember it. If the weight is back here, then I'm going to want that arrow to move forward. If my weight is right here, then I'm going to want my arrow to move backwards. Okay, that is the easiest way that I can tell you guys to remember, because any other way definitely will confuse me, and I don't want to confuse you guys. So however it is, good rule of thumb, like we were just at, sorry guys, good rule of thumb, like we were just at, make sure this is something that you go over with your trainer. That way you can get your aha moment, because my aha moment may not be your aha moment. The way I'm explaining it may confuse you. You may be like, oh wait, Reese, that didn't make no sense to me. I get that. So that's why I'm telling you, go over this with your trainer. Okay. That way they can show you, because some people are visual learners. If I had to probably saw this visually, versus me doing this over a phone call and then having to do it and learn from my own mistake, then I probably would have got it a lot sooner. So that's one thing that I suggest that you guys go over: tandem moving. um Also, what you're going to want to go over for some of us that unfortunately have to deal with a sliding fifth wheel. CRST does not utilize the sliding fifth wheels on their tractors anymore, from my understanding. When I was there, they had used them prior to me coming for schooling, but by the time my group and probably some groups that came before me, they those new tractors, because they switch out every, I think, 500,000 miles. I think, I'm not sure. Every 2 to 3 years, they get new tractors. So the new tractors that they do use, do not utilize the sliding fifth wheel. Now, for the rest of us that either go to a different school or are now out in the world on their own, and they get assigned a tractor that has a sliding fifth wheel, ask someone to show you how to use it. Generally speaking, um, there is, let me see if I can pan right here and show you guys real quick. So these little doohickeys right here, and I got something else I want to show you guys in one quick second, that happens to be in the same area. These little doohickeys right here. So this one right here, I'm going to go ahead and put that way so you can see what it says. Do not engage during spin out. It's in lock mode. The unlock mode, enter axle diff. What that does is your back, brain freeze, your drive axle tires, your drive tires, you can lock them down where they will not spin. So let's just say you're going, you need to get out of some slush, like I had to get out of that situation, where I was stuck in the snow, or you're going across a dusty road and you don't want to kick up a whole lot of dust. You can engage that and it will, stop your tires from spinning, and therefore, your power will be still in your steer tires, and it'd be like, I guess, four wheel compared to four wheel drive. I don't know. But it comes in handy. It has come in handy for me. So that's one thing that I know is usually general on mostly all of the trucks, is your inter axle differentiation, or whatever it's called. Um, right next to it, let's see. This is my switch that engages and disengages my suspense airbags. So it raises and lowers those airbags that are on my tractor. So therefore, like when I'm dropping my trailer, when I push it to lower it, it will take the air out and lower my suspense in the back to the ground. When I push it on, it will fill those airbags back up, thus raising my suspension back up. This is my sliding fifth wheel, and we are not going to engage and disengage that, because I just actually got the pins worked on last night to get them back in place, and I need to get that cleaned out. And if I unlock it, those pins will go back in and they may not come back out. But if you slide it this way, the pins, just like on your tandem, should go inward. And when you push the lock button, they should come back out, meaning they should stick back into the slots that they go into. So those are some things that they didn't teach us in school. And my trainer did not teach me either. That is something that I had to learn on my own. Now, the Excuse me. The inner axle diff, I used one time with one of my trainers because if you guys noticed that I went through three until I found the charm, which was the third. Like they say, three is a charm, third one was a charm. The very first one showed me the inner axle diff when we were going over a gravel road, and he wanted me to engage it so it wouldn't kick up all the dust or whatever. So that's how I found out about that one. And then recently, when they pulled me out of the snow, DOT had me engage mine so that my tires would not spin while I was trying to get the traction to get out of the snow. Now, the airbag suspense, my company teaches you to use it because technically you want to kind of leave 2 to 4 inches off the ground when you're lowering your landing gear. That is a good rule of thumb. Technically, a lot of companies don't teach you that. They tell you, like I think CRC, we lowered ours all the way down, but that's also because we didn't use our suspense system to release the air and lower our um, tractors to the ground. So therefore, yeah. With a lot of people, they like to leave that because the reason being, when you go to hook back underneath a trailer, um, you want that trailer lowered good enough to where you feel your fifth wheel bump underneath the trailer and slightly lift up the trailer. That way, you know that the trailer is not too high. Because what happens is, if that trailer is too high and you go to back underneath with your fifth wheel, you may actually go over your fifth wheel. And I have had that happen to me as well. Thank goodness that the trailer that did that on me was an empty trailer, and I was able to go lift, crank up the landing gear and lift that trailer up back over my fifth wheel and slide back underneath it. Um, but that taught me a lesson too. When you go, you want to make sure two things you want to do. You want to make sure that you feel that bump. But moreover than that, because sometimes you will still be, you may bump it with the bottom, like your fifth wheel usually is sitting like this. You may bump it with the bottom, but by the time you get to right here, you still look like you are right slightly over, because what's going to happen is that fifth wheel will go like this, and if you are still over when you go back, you still may go over. Good rule of thumb with that is to make sure that you get out of your tractor and look and see how that fifth wheel is positioned to your um trailer nose. Okay, so that's a good rule of thumb. But if you usually generally leave that 2 to 4 inches of landing gear from touching the ground, it when you pull from under it or lower your suspense, it's going to lower it down enough to where you or the next person that gets to backing, you or whoever that backs up to that trailer will be lower enough to where you back up and it's going to lift it up, and you will be right there to slide your kingpin um, of your trailer into your fifth wheel, and it won't skip over it. So, yeah, a lot of stuff that you learn out here on your own. Let me just backtrack a little bit. Also, back to the tandem thing. A lot of times, people don't tell you that your tandems, when you move them holes, are generally 200 pounds. For each hole, you can kind of estimate that it's gonna take off or put on 200 pounds of weight on each hole. So also let that I didn't want to get too far off from where we're going with this. Same with um your fifth wheel. When you move your fifth wheel, you're actually moving weight on or off of your steer axle. Now I don't know how much weight that actually moves for you, because like I said, I have never worked with that. A lot of people say it doesn't do a whole lot. It's not like moving the weight on your tandems, but that is why you would want to move your fifth wheel, your sliding fifth wheel. Let's see. Um, Shucks. What else have I experienced? I've experienced a lot, but those definitely came to my mind, and I wanted to make sure that I covered that with you because I know for sure those generally are not covered in school, and a lot of times they're not covered when you go out with your trainer. Um, I don't want this video to be too long, so right now we will kind of leave it at that. If I come up with something else later, I'll try to write it down so I can remember. So I can remember. Yeah. So, all right, guys, it's an excellent morning. I guess I'm going to be sitting here half of my day, which is going to put a damper in my toot at some point in time because it's going to push me back from getting home on time. My delivery time is already pushed back, but my fleet manager, I made him aware of the situation. Um, and so he's cool. I'm cool. And they haven't even came to start doing anything with this trailer yet. The light is still green. So we're gonna have a long day, y'all. But it's cool. All right. If y'all have any questions or if y'all would want me to cover anything, I know I don't do the whole walk around the trailer tractor videos like some people do because I think there's enough of those. I like to come and I like to actually talk to you guys and hopefully explain some things that troubled me or bothered me in hopes that the next person can learn or gain something from it and their journey will be a little bit more smoother than mine has been because I'm telling you sometimes this stuff can be so overwhelming that it makes you just be like, you know what, it's too much, it's not worth it. But then like I say, there's that hands of justice thing going on where I'm like, okay, it's not worth it. They don't pay me enough. But then I look at my paycheck and I look at the opportunities that this life does afford me. And I'm like, I love what I do. It's more or less that I love what I do. You know, when I'm going down the road, when I'm stopping to fuel up, when, you know, I get a chance to go to different cities, states, and, you know, meet different people that are pretty cool out here in on this road. I love what I do. And at the end of the day, guys, I got to tell you, it is so true. When you love what you do, it isn't as much like work. Because when I'm behind this wheel or my day is going pretty damn well, I don't feel like I'm actually doing any work. So, you know, it has its moments, good and bad. So if I come to you guys and share with you my experience in hopes that your journey may be a little bit more smoother so you can get the better experience and enjoy what you do out here, then I feel like it's well worth it. All right, guys, I'm going to end it there. And you guys have a blessed, prosperous, joyful day. And